Hi there, Randy Green here. Let me continue this little series I'm making here, and it is an extension or a continuation of the first video, which is called Civil Agent for a Better Future. And I will dive into some of the topics that we need to touch ground with and some of the understandings that typically takes years to study to get the bigger picture of. And I will spare you of this because this is the time to go to solutions where we will get as much understanding as possible so we can make the right choices and the right solutions. Now, when we talk about development of humanity, it is not a simple task, to put it that way. Nothing about what we are to embark on is simple. So those of you, as most people, the young of heart and the young of mind, as did I when I was young, when I was, as I've mentioned, I've been very political active since in my teens actually. I thought that it was easy to change the world. If only people did this and that and whatever, then things would change, right? But things are not that simple. They never are, because whenever we try to change things, we have this narrow perspective that we think we are the center of the world, that our culture is how everything is, and that our upbringing and our family structure and our social structures, our social norms and our social values are the same all around the world, which of course they're not. So this trying to unify humanity and make them walk in the same direction. And I'm not here talking about becoming hive mind, because we want independent thinkers. This is very, very important. And this is why I'm not per se going out there creating an ashram and a community where everybody is mimicking my teachings, because that is never and has never been my goal with this. On the contrary, I want you to think. And I want you to process information, and I want you to come to your own conclusions. Because when we talk changes of a civilization, and I'm here not referring to civilization as in Denmark or in Germany or wherever, I'm talking about the planetary civilization, where all humans go beyond their culture, they go beyond their religion, they go beyond their skin color, and they go beyond their sexual orientation. Because in the bigger scheme of things, these are, who cares? Who cares if you're lesbian or a homosexual? Who cares if you're black or you're white, or if you're poor or you're rich, or whatever you are? Of course, I know when we talk about being poor or being rich, that makes a huge difference in terms of what you have in your life. And I understand this. I didn't grow up in a lot of wealth, so I definitely know what it means and how it feels to not have money for whatever you need. And I got divorced very early on, and I more or less brought up my own daughter, and I was a single mom. Not my own daughter, but my daughter. I was a single mom. I cut down my work hours to be a good mom because I knew that was necessary, and she was a sensitive child. She needed me. She needed me to be there around her, and I saw that, and I respected that, and I chose that. And I never regretted it. Never, ever, because it was important. It was so important. I felt in every fiber of my body that this was the right solution. This was the right decision. But it also meant she grew up with very little, and I had to stretch the money as much as I could. So it's not that I am a wealthy person just because I live in Denmark. We have poverty here as well. It just takes different forms. We have people on the street as well that I have no home, but most of these are kind of what we could call have strong psychological issues on top of that, because the Danish system take very good care of people who have no money. We have a very well-built social system up here. So technically you really have to fall between the grid to become homeless, because there are so many social workers, there are so many people up here that are working to prevent that. You literally just have to call one up in your local community, which is there is this word, the manipulosity. I always say it wrong, but there are some English words that, no matter how many times I rehearse them, it's difficult for me to pronounce them, because I am Danish and English is my second language. But with that said, so I'm lucky. I'm very, very lucky, because to end up in the street in Denmark is you really have to work for it. It's not something that just happens because you can't pay your bills or anything. There is a huge network of support in Denmark, which is not where I'm saying, oh, everybody move to Denmark, because then that would be ruined, because it costs money and we all pay an enormously high tax to make that happen. But it's part of our social value to take care of the ones that have less. It's part of our entire political system as well. No matter if you go right wing or left wing, it's still part of, we don't want to ruin that social network we have here, or the grid that would help and assist as many citizens as possible to have what you could call a life that is decent. I'm not saying they're having a lot of money, because they don't, but it's decent. So they can pay their bills, they can get food on the table. So having nothing in Denmark is there. It's not an enormous amount of money. So don't think that coming to Denmark will give you a kind of a total paradise or whatever. Don't go there. This is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that it's part of my constitution to look upon different levels of society and have it as my basic understanding that we should help each other. Okay, this is where I want to go. This is where I want to point my direction. And in terms of, again, putting a little bit personal in there, when I was around 20 or so, I went to Israel, as I talked about, and I had a boyfriend who was an Israelite, but his family and his lineage was from Yemen, very black-skinned, beautiful-looking guy, by the way. Anyways, but that's where I technically encountered quite a lot of the Jewish mindset, including being totally ignored by his mom, because there are rules around females and males in the Jewish community. And as we know, the Jewish lineage is brought forth through the female. So if he should choose to team up with me, her grandchild, would not be Jewish. It would be a hybrid, so to speak, and she didn't want that. So she did whatever she could to freeze me out. And let's put it that way. It led to the situation where my boyfriend and I actually contemplated on him returning with me to Denmark. Now, he was an electrician, mostly by training, not in education as we have it here in Denmark, because we pay for joint education over our taxes, so that as many as possible can get a high level of education if they choose to do so. If they choose not to do so, of course they don't get it. It's not forced upon people, but it is there as a possibility. Anyways, he was a skilled electrician working with electricity and wires, and handyman, you can call him that. And he had his own car and he had a job. So it was not that he didn't have skills, but I was contemplating on already then in an age of 20 that taking him with me to Denmark were just obstacles that were beyond me at the time. I simply did not feel mature enough for the task of taking in a very dark-skinned, beautifully looking man with skills that would not be valued to the same degree in Denmark. No doubt about that. We have got barriers there with people from other countries having different types of educations, how to compare them with our level of education. So nothing is simple, as I say, nothing is simple. These are structures of society that comes in the way when we try to unite as a team. So I'm just mentioning some of these obstacles. And I also, some of his beliefs of what Denmark was, he thought, for instance, that females were sitting in the windows, here talking about prostitutes. And that's Holland. So he did not have the right understanding of what Denmark was. So if he thought that he would come to Denmark and then he had the vision of Holland, then of course he would be disappointed, because it's all about cognitive dissonance. Remember, we have a narrative, we have an idea of what it is, and then reality comes our way and slaps us in the face. This is where some adjust, and some can adjust to these challenges and these changes and reality as it actually is, and others have extreme difficulty in adjusting. These are some of the challenges of change. And sometimes you need to get into quite the more strong belief systems you have, the stronger you are situated in a rigid structure of perception of reality and others and self. The more narrow your narrative is about what you are and who you are and what a human should be, the more you will resist changes. And this is where education comes in, because we can, I'm touching ground here as usual with a lot of topics to explain to you why changes are difficult. So this is the goal of this video. Why are changes difficult? And what does it take to push humanity into becoming a team, understanding that this is teamwork across religion, across gender, across whatever culture we come from? How do we unite this? Normally, the best way to unite diversified cultures and diversified humans within different tribes, having different settings and belief systems, is to create an outer enemy. And technically, I have already done that, because that is, in the bigger scheme of things, that's the aliens, the ones that are controlling our planet. And I have spent enormous time to share that understanding with you. So we do have an outer enemy, but to be able to fight that outer enemy has nothing to do with teaming up as soldiers and then fight our ridiculously low developed technologies against them, because first and foremost, most of them are in other dimensions, and our technology only functions within our dimension. And they live in different density settings, which are a different vibrational state than ours. So they can only be perceived by a higher awareness, which means you need to develop your understanding of other realities. And at the same time, you will only see the ones of which you have genetic affinity with and energetic affinity with, meaning that we can't team up against these races. And now you begin to understand the secretness around these races, including the compartmentalization, the need to know and who knows this and who knows what, because these races are only visible for few and not all, and all of these kind of things. As I said, there is nothing simple about what we are doing here. But whatever you want to do with this part of our reality, of which is beyond the normal human narrative for most anyways, is a journey you embark on yourself. And I have completed that part of my work. It's all in the whole classes and in the whole books, ending up with the whole integration classes. I have rounded that part of my work. It's all there. All bases are covered in what you need to begin that work on your own and discover this on your own. So this is also why I'm beginning to focus on, okay, we have another issue at hand. And this is the most difficult of all, if it were not difficult enough to work with the aliens, but the whole kind of thinking through and setting in motion a new type of psychosocial structure for Team Human. Okay, so this is where I look into all of the pieces of what it takes, and this is why I suggest to you begin with yourself first, so you know you're in check. You can check that one on all the levels I teach in the whole classes and courses. I made that one as well. That effort is there too. I also made what you could call a new type of spiritual belief system. So you have your religion in place as well. And I will do my very best to begin to work. I won't do the politics. In many ways, I have covered the politics, the otherworldly politics in the whole philosophy book. So that is kind of covered there, because that is where I want to go eventually with the Pillar Project. That would be the political side of things when I get there, because human political systems are I did that when I was young. I finished them off when I was young. I saw these are just personal ideologies that fits the psychological structure. Whoever claims this to be political, whatever. And at the end of the day, who cares? Seriously. What we should care about is human rights. The value as a human and between humans and how we are around each other. And this is technically what religion used to cover with the different ways until they began fighting each other, and then it kind of all falls apart, because then it becomes my God is better than your God, and that does not create team humanity. So when we talk about it needs to go beyond religion as well. And this is why I call it cross religion, because what is the essence technically in all religions? It is to become a better human, whether or not you believe in higher order systems or you believe in gods or whatever. It is about becoming the best version of a human we can be. But I would like to pull it out of the religious systems because they are archaic. And they are built upon societal structures of society and psychosocial structures that are suppressing. They are suppressing. So we can't really use any of the religious systems anymore. Buddhism, definitely, but not the Mahayana, not the big vessel that most are doing, because it's more Hinduism, in my opinion, than it's actually Buddhism. If you do the Theravada, which is in the book what the Buddha taught, and you get that one when you do the individual work and understand these are for individuals, and not rituals and not temples and not necessarily as monk in a temple or in a sort of an ashram. I know ashram is Hindu, but let's just go with that one. I can't remember what the Buddhists call their secluded areas where they team up together and do their work in an off-grid setting. Let's just call it that. But what the philosophy of changing yourself, of working with yourself, of working with your concepts of reality, your narrative of who you are, and your psychosocial structure, comparing yourself to others, comparing yourself to your society, and working with that in a way to dissolve all of these structures, becoming flux of energy and becoming changeable and adaptable, could be what we could derive out of the Theravada Buddhism. There's a lot of other stuff there, but this is what I want to pull out of it here, because this is what we talk about. When we talk about team humanity, it goes very closely into the understanding of human resource management in businesses. And this is some of the parts of me I haven't worked much with, but technically I have a diploma, high diploma education. It's not MBA. I typically just refer to that because that's easier for people to understand. It's a Danish education, so it's not comparable to what you know out there. But many of the things that go in there are similar to an MBA. So it goes with administration, it goes with human resource management, it goes with organizational cultures, it goes with leadership, it goes with what we could call management as in administration, accounting, how to run a business, and all these kind of things have been something both I've been educated in, I've been working with it in praxis. I have been part of companies, I have had different roles within companies, I've been a recruiter, I have been matching up employees and leaders and what they were looking for, being part of temp bureaus, and as well as being, as I said, with the recruiting, having had interviews with the ones that were what do you call it? This is again, I'm fighting here my language. Were seeking for a job and responding to the ad I had made after having had the interviews with the leader or the leader of the department and what they wanted and what they saw as the fitting agent or the fitting employee for their apartment and their culture and what they wanted to have with the skills they wanted, all these kind of things. And from that, I made an ad, and from that, I did the interviews, and then I matched up the ones that were best fit for what that department or that leader needed in terms of fulfilling the potentials of a good employee, so to speak, but also as well as I could, making the employee feel this is where I belong, because it's all about culture, the outspoken culture and the hidden culture. Humans are not simple beings. So nothing is simple when we talk solutions. So this is part of me, again, working with Team Humanity. But also when we talk about the Pillar Project, which you will know much more about if you read the whole philosophy book, and some of the original ways we used to do things in our solar system. I'm also drawing on that one. When we talk about changes, sorry, I have to sip a little bit here. Good sound on the recording. Again, not doing the editing. I'm not there. You are at a lecture and you get everything that will normally be at a lecture. We are here looking into how do we create Team Humanity. And again, this in many ways. I'm not entirely and exclusively talking to women here, but I am in many ways because I am a woman. So in that way, it would be natural for me to punch that one first and address this to females around the world. But I'm also talking to a lot of the young males out there that has a different structure than the older generation of males, because you are technically two utterly completely different programs. So you will have different approaches toward the world you are a part of, and you want to make changes, many of you, unless you, of course, are soaked in video games and porn and these kind of things, which I will address on a later occasion. And there's a reason for that. No, I'm here talking about young men and women and older women around the world. And I know there are also older men out there that are ready to do this. So this is not age defined, but it is, again, where do we talk from? Again, remembering we are always thinking we're a center of the universe, and by that, which is technically one of the sciences that explain to why, if we are living in Australia, we are not standing upside down and falling off the planet, not just because of gravity, because for me, that is literally too weak a force to explain that one, because the birds are flying, right? But they are still not falling off the planet. So what is it? It's the magnetic field, in my opinion. To be honest, this is how I see it. But it does not explain the weird features of no matter where you are in the universe, you will always see it. That will be a perimeter of perception. You're always the center of everything. You always see it from your own where you stand, including when I'm in Denmark, I'm standing upside down, which is more, but still on the side, technically should fall off. When you're in Australia, you walk around with your head downwards if the planet is round. And I'm not here talking about flat Earth, because the way that is explained and portrayed is the same ideas they had in the Middle Ages, where you had a flat Earth and then you had a dome, and that was some of the thinkers in the Middle Ages that actually thinking about that, and that inspired Newton to figure out something else, because he was pondering upon the whole thing with the apple that fell to the ground and why that is, and why the sun was circulating around the planet as the thought at the time, and then moving it around because of his calculations, we began to get a more broadened perspective of our solar system. And how the planets are put in different, eclipses, or in different lanes, if you want to put it this way. They move around the sun in different rings, and why that is ecliptic, it's not round. And some of these forces, which later on led to Einstein and the relativity theories and space-time and all of these kind of things to explain our world. And we still have a lot of things that we are about to learn regarding these kind of things, because we're still just working within the frequency band of energies and frequency sciences, and we need to go beyond this. As I mentioned in the first video, there is 96% out there we don't know what is yet. And these are different types of energy and different types of matter that has different features we haven't discussed or discovered yet, which we will need to work with. And right now, scientists are working to the quantum levels. They are deducing things, and they are cutting things to pieces to get to the smaller and smaller units of our reality, just to get to the quantum field, where they discover that actually it goes into a field of probability and possibilities of which you can, if you work with the idea of virtual particles, begin to understand what actually creates manifestation and what pushes things into manifestation. And this is where they need to figure out, okay, what are the forces that changes the possibilities into probabilities and then turn into manifestation that becomes atoms, that become molecules, that turn into organic forms and living organisms, and what we understand as consciousness and brain structure and all these kind of things. And for me, as long as science works with the concepts they have here, then it's difficult to find the answers. But if they begin working with different civilizations out there, not saying, oh yeah, we do the easy one where we create it because that's religion. Religion is the gods created us, right? No, we go beyond that and understand that we are part of our own creation. We are part of who and what we are, and we are part of our reality. And we all interact with each other. We are not secluded. We are not isolated from each other. We affect each other energetically, mentally, physically, emotionally, when we are around each other and embracing that understanding. So the first part of not Team Denmark, but Team Humanity is to understand that we are different. And it's okay to be different. No matter what kind of person we are. No matter what our skin color is, no matter what our religion is, no matter what our language is, and all of these kind of things, we are different, and diversity is a good thing. We enjoy diversity because that gives an enormous amount of strength. It also creates a lot of problems, no doubt about that, but it gives an enormous amount of strength because we have all of these different skills, all of these different perceptions, and all of these different ways of solving things because our brain works in mysterious ways that are different. So let's embrace diversity as the first thing. We sit down and we develop what's called empathy, meaning you are able to walk a mile in another person's shoes, meaning you're willing to embrace and understand and contain other humans for what they are. Technically, you need to profile others, but in an accepting way instead of a vilifying way. So this is where psychology comes in, and that's why I would love to push you all into doing a little bit of your own psychological work. Go and see a therapist. At some point I might pick it up again, but for now, those of you who are doing this work, go and see a therapist. You buy 4 or 5 sessions, perhaps a little bit more, learn a little bit about yourself and how to work with yourself, and then study a little bit of psychology to broaden your perception of what a human is. Because the more you can contain and accept yourself, the more you can contain and accept others. If you are founded in a solid groundwork of knowing who and what you are, and that you have flaws and that you fail and you are not perfect, and it's okay not to be perfect, and it's okay to have flaws, and nobody will come out being whatever you think they are, and change the narrative into, instead of conceptualization that this is that human and profiling them and then keep them in that box. And if they try to do something else, instead of responding with aggression and negativity, be open and say, wow, that's something new. Be investigative, ask questions, be interested in learning other people, get to know them, figure out who they are, what they are, let them challenge you and see what you will learn from this. This is what goes with the old teaching saying that every human is your master, because everyone can teach you something, good or ill. But ill depends on how you respond to it. And in my whole advanced class 1 to 4 that is out for free on my website, I talk a lot about this stuff. And this is where the principle comes in, to give you some guidelines into how can you actually respond to other people. And at some point, when I do the whole psychology book, so we have the whole philosophy book, we will have the whole psychology book, and if I really go further, I will do the whole business book, but I don't know if I'm allowed to go there, but for now, definitely the psychology. So with that, having new tools to create your personal narrative and the narrative you have regarding other people and how you respond to other people, because it all depends on the narrative. If you see them as enemies, you will respond in that way. If you see them as your friends, you will respond that way as well. If you are good at making friendships, And that all comes down to your own security in yourself, with yourself, your own self-confidence, and the things you have gone through, the hurting you carry, the experiences you have with you, and everything that you are. And you are the only one that can detect where you need to progress further. And this is the way I address our psychological issues, is that these are possibilities for progression. These are all of your flaws are ways you can progress, ways you can change. Everything that you need to change, you can change. Trust me, who I have become today is because I've done that work myself. That's also why I want to become a psychotherapist. And that's why I study religion. That's why I studied business. That's why I studied philosophy, because I want to progress humanity. I want to progress as much as I can, because for me, the answer is simple to why our world is not where it's supposed to be, aside from the oppression and the regress races and the hostile takeover. There is always the acceptance of the current situation. So the question is always, choose your battles. What can you fight and what can't you fight? And how can you prepare yourself for whatever comes your way, so that you will progress in a way and respond in a way that will give you some, what you could call, self-gratification, that will make you feel stronger and more empowered. So when we talk about psychological issues, and if we talk about therapy, my approach has never been to stroke my clients with their hairs. If it's necessary with the inner child, I do in the beginning. But I push them, and I push and I push, because this inner child needs to grow up, needs to mature. And one of the things humanity, when we talk team humanity, that comes in the way is that humans are not mature. They are, to a large degree, infantiles still. They are children. They respond as children. And they respond as children that are trying to protect their toy. They have not learned social mechanisms. They have not learned to work as a team. And hive mind does not solve that. That's for the greys and the insectoids that have chosen the hive mind. That just creates slaves. If we want independent thinkers, we also need thinkers that have empathy. So we can't just take a bunch of nerds, which we know to a large degree have worked with their left side of their brain. They are extremely equipped to process information and come with solutions, and or be mathematical or technological or whatever. And they are high skilled in combining information to the left hemisphere, whereas you can say the more they can have visionary imagery as well. Not saying that that's not part of them, but quite a lot of these people who have an enormous amount of intelligence, let's just put it that way, many of them lack social skills. And then we have the other type of humans, again, too narrow, because there are a lot of in-betweens. But again, then we have other humans that are more skilled in processes, that are more skilled in working with teams, that are more skilled at seeing the team as a pattern, as a unity, as something you need to put a little bit here, you need to put a little bit there, and you need to do this and that and whatever. That's technically what you call leadership, true leadership, where you work with the potentials of your co-workers and you make them all blossom into creating a culture where everybody feels it's okay to thrive, to blossom, to show their potentials, and to come with new ideas. That would be my perfect business. And I know it's not good, that's not how it works out there, because unfortunately we still have too many leaders that have inferior issues, which makes them more like, as I typically call it I don't know if it's something I invented or someone else, but it's from when I did the organizational theory. There are different approaches on this one, but this is management as seagulls would do it. They fly above you and then they shit on you whenever your head pops up. Or you could do leadership or management by mushrooms. You are grown in dirt, and whenever you pop up, your head gets chopped off. So this is not creating team humanity. We got issues with businesses as well, but that's something I want to talk about in another setting, because that's a business culture, and that has to do with production, and it has to do with what is the most efficient way of producing things that goes back to old belief systems that needs to be modified there as well. And I know a lot of the millennials out there and Generation X and whoever that are doing business today, you're working in a different way, and go for it. Continue developing how we can run businesses as a team that will make us all grow and prosper. And in that, the more happy we are, the more content we are, the more seen we are, the more productive we become. So the whole kind of management by mushroom is archaic and goes back with the slaveries, where you literally punish your slaves for thinking for themselves or whatever because you needed to maintain control. These are control management, and that will not progress humanity. So I have got my own ideas on that one as well, and how we could work together with the principles and some of the original ideas of the Pillar Project and onward and so forth in creational ideas. But I will shelve that for now, because here we're working with the psychosocial structures. Now, if you're born in, I got people following me from Japan, from India, from Malaysia, from America, from South America, from South Africa. I don't know if I have from different levels of Africa. I definitely know from South Africa. I haven't encountered yet someone who says, "Oh, I'm from Nubia or something, or Libya or whatever." But different places around the world. I haven't had anyone from China yet, due to their culture, and I don't know how much access they actually have to YouTube, so that would kind of define whether or not they will find their way to me. Australia, Canada, England, Germany, Sweden, Norway, not from Finland yet, but let's just put it, people from around the world. And many I talked with in the beginning where I'm doing the private sessions, which, as I said, if things becomes a little bit more peaceful, I will pick that one up, because then I don't have to fight whatever comes, whatever is controlling these people. And when I talk about the contracts and these things that are running humanity, I have covered that in the whole integration class 1 and 2. So it's all there. I don't need to put it in here. I'm done with that. You want to know what that is, you do the whole classes and courses and read the books, it's there. So I want to focus on team humanity. So we have all of these different cultures, we have all of these different forms of religions, we have all of these different forms of social values, which are to a large degree quite determined by the religion, unfortunately. And we have norms. And all of these things are something each and one of us should participate in changing. And this is why I'm making this little video, to point out that it's not a simple task, but we should not shy away from it, because this is a teamwork. And how do we make a team of humans work together? And this typically demands leadership. But how do we do it where you become the leader of your close family, of your workplace, and the environment you are in? How do I sit here in Denmark without actually being your leader, just inspiring you to find your strength to be able to instigate changes? And this is one of the most difficult things for humans over all ages since the hijacking 15,000 years ago, because there are players within our reality that work, plural, against changes, that are deliberately inserted into our reality to take out the pioneers, the three thinkers, the women that want to go against whatever programming their social culture has, keeping them as breeders and subservient. There are enormous amount of programming that ensures that nobody will pop up their head and in any way or form become a threat to the existing institutions and regimes and constitutions and regimes. These are three different levels, because you can say institutions cover everything from educational institutions to sciences to religions to social structures, but you also have the constitutions, which are more the social norms and the social values that are part of the cultural setting, and then you have the regime that more covers the financial and economic and political institutions and constitutions, and typically a regime is used by dictatorship and these kind of things. But either way, whether it's a democracy or it's dictatorship or it's a tyranny or whatever it is, or whatever political constitution, to use that word there, or regime a country has, we have these challenges. We have the resisting powers, the counter forces within political structures, within financial structures, within psychological structures, within religious structures, and within all forms of society. And these are some of the things you need to be aware of when you become a civil agent for a better future. Because unless you have educated yourself to understand what you're up against, and this is why I took the time to do the whole classes and courses in the book, so you understood this is what you're up against. So now we go into, okay, when you know what you're up against and you know enough about yourself so you know how you respond and how you deal with your emotional responses to whatever comes your way, and you are capable of handling these different challenges you will meet emotionally, physically, and mentally when you become a pioneer for a new and a better world, because you need to train yourself to become that, because it's hardship. You put yourself out there, so you better be ready for whatever comes your way, and you need to stand up to these challenges. You can't be weak and mellow and all the time. It can be from time to time, but whatever comes your way, you need to be equipped to face it in the correct level and correct manner with the correct response. So this demands something of your psychological structure. You need to become a superhuman, but not enhanced by alien genetics, but a superhuman in terms of psychology, in terms of empathy, in terms of working with yourself, in terms of progression. This is the goal for us. We need to be empowered so we can do progression for ourselves and for our families and our society. Now, when you understand there are these counter forces, whatever they will be, for whatever level they will come and whatever version they will have and whatever appearance they will come in, these are some of the things you will learn as you walk down the narrow path. You will understand the ones from the broad path, they want to pull you there because there's a reason why they want to keep you in stuck, why they want to keep you where they are running their programs and their base program and their world order. You will understand this. You're trying to divert, you're trying to create something that is parallel with that one, and in that one you might open up doors to some of the original ways our solar system was created, which is why I'm advocating for, and in that you become a threat. And this is also why I always laugh a bit whenever we do the Jesus story, and they always portray him as this gentle person, because the real one that laid the character for that story, he was a warrior. He was trained on Mars. So with that understanding that a civil agent for a better future is trained. It's not an ideology. It is an equipment. It is a dressing. It is. You strap on your sandals and you tie up your belt and you size up, because this takes strength. And that also goes when we talk team humanity, the ones that are going to go in the forefront, not as warriors going into war and being blown apart, because this is not where we're going, but the ones that have the psychological, energetic, conscious strength for progression. And to stand in that light of progression and to emanate that energy of change and to not shy away or bow or deny or retract. You can do that for a period of time, because we all need to get our batteries filled up again. Trust me, you've seen me many times, then I retract, then I come back. But you can see every time I come back a little bit stronger, no matter what I've gone through. I am in that way a role model already. And I've done thousands of mistakes, and I've changed from a human into this superhuman I'm trying to make you into as well. And I still have a long way to go, because progression never ends. This is part of the original constitution of what it means to be human, to progress. The humanoids don't like to progress. They like to stay where they are. They like things in their control systems, and we don't go there because that's not what we want. But these are the ones that have been occupying our planet for a very, very long time. So this is technically where the counter forces come from. And in the whole integration class one, I explained this in detail. So if you want all the gory details of that one, that is where you will get it. The whys and the hows are there, including what I've written in my books. And I will not dive further into that one. If you want the outer enemy, that's the one. But that one has to be faced individually. And the freeing work, which is called the path of liberation, to gain true sovereignty of your consciousness heritage and who you truly are as a human, no matter what system you came from originally and why you ended up here, is your personal journey to embark on. So we have the broad path, then we have the narrow path for the ones that are ready to begin instigating changes. The narrow path then goes into the path of liberation, which then goes into the eye of the needle. So this will narrow down and narrow down and narrow down, becoming more and more individual. And that is why I say we need individual thinkers. But individual thinkers also need to work together when we talk about changes in our world, because this is the joint space in which we all live and thrive, should thrive. So to make these changes, we need to be agents within our local setting. Because as I said in the first video, we can't wait for governments or scientists to get us there. They are restricted by the bureaucracy that are in both of these institutions. But we are, as free thinkers, as civil agents for a better future, we are ourselves, aside from what you will experience once you begin this work. You will see you're not as much sovereign as you think you are, but that is where you will progress. You will develop through the different challenges you will get in this work. All of this will expand your awareness. It will expand who you are and what you are, and your acceptance of different ways of reality and different ways of what a human is and what a human can be. And that is the goal. Because when we talk about changing our planet and expand it into being able to reconnect to the universal levels of consciousness, we have a long way to go. And the seen in the broader picture of things and how things are right now, it doesn't look as everybody will be able to do so. But this should not take away our effort to at least try and make it into a better environment, because there are progression possibilities in that as well. And we have a very, very big challenge in front of us, which are the climate changes. And yes, there is a lot of other technologies going on there, and I will not address these because this is not where I want to put it. Here I want to keep it within more or less the normal human realm, because this is where we have an outer enemy. That is what the climate changes technically are. And these the floods, the fires, the hurricanes, whatever comes our way are unrooting people in certain areas of different countries. And these challenges will change their entire life. And it will put them in new settings where they will figure out these challenges and what they are going to do with them. They will be uprooted and thrown into the eye of the hurricane and standing there and thinking, how the fuck do I move from here and to where I need to go? And the pandemic, and I have got no money, I lost my job, I lost my home, I lost my house, I lost my family, or whatever is going on, all depending on where you are and what you are facing. And we have hunger, and we'll get more drought, and we'll have food allocation issues that will hit other parts of our planet, and we will have pollution and overpollution and extreme bad weather. We will have the challenges of the pandemic that are. It's just a moment. It's just a matter of time before they really understand that it's born. It is carried by air particles. It's viral. So and in that, understanding the consequences of that and all of the challenges we have right now. And as we're seeing out there in the majority of people, they respond from a level of fear, and they go into resistance Because this is the normal reaction when we have challenges or we have changes. I've seen it in work cultures, I've seen it in psychology, in my therapy work, and I've seen it so many times. When things become too overwhelming, humans regress. They go into fear, and then they go into resistance because they don't want to adapt. It's cognitive dissonance, and they can't handle it. They can't handle the emotions. They can't handle the stress. And the way to let all of this out is to create some kind of gespenst or some kind of ghost, some kind of enemy, some kind of monster they can fight against, be it a political party or a conspiracy or religious or whatever it is. People seek explanations. And all of these explanations that they seek and what they look for are unfortunately corresponding to their level of education. The way they respond with this resistance and with this fear and the need to do something, because this is fight and flight, some will, they will run away, and others, they will go head on and begin fighting. The level of fight they will come up with will also be depending on level of education. And I am sorry to say so, but the more you know, the more complex you know things are, and the more you think about things, and the more you actually think a little bit about before you respond, before you just throw yourself head on into a belief system. And all of you know what I refer to here. And it doesn't matter if it's one end of the spectrum or the other end of the spectrum. Because this lack of understanding of the bigger picture of the dynamics of our world, and you can say, well, Randy, you got too many levels of it, so this becomes too complicated for everybody. And for me, no, this is the challenge. This is the challenge. How do we create team humanity? How do we upgrade the police force so that they are educated in ways that make them able to cope with the stress they constantly are on, so when they are in extreme stressful situations, they will respond more correctly to whatever pressure is coming their way and not just go into brute force. This is a matter of lack of education, lack of training. They go back to very primal levels of themselves, which will then all become about defending themselves, and then fighting, and group energy will take them over because they're not strong, independent thinkers that can stop themselves. When the group energy flushes into them and they just get the hyena, kill everything, scavenger mentality, they can't step out of it because they're not psychologically equipped and they are not trained for it, which we see in some of the special forces that are to some degree trained in it, but also in that one to some degree go the other way around and totally lose their humanity and always just are in the spot, in the crisis, responding correctly and with the what needs to be done and assessing that and making the strategy and then just kind of do whatever they need to do to get out of that situation. But they still have the ability to assess the situation. And this is where education and training comes in. So this is where I'm talking from, psychological training, as well as the ability to be in extremely stressful and also emotionally challenging situations. And this is why you need to learn yourself. You need to be able to contain pain and sadness and suffering and all of the things that you will see that will hurt you and rip your heart apart, that will go into all of your core layers of what you feel is right and wrong. And you need to be able to figure out, okay, you can see all of this. What do you do about it? Don't respond emotionally, but what do you do about it? How do we solve this? And I always say it begins with ourselves, because you need to be equipped to understand the ones you're working with. So a perfect team consists of individual members who have trained in different scenarios, who have trained in different psychological stressful situations, who are willing to put in the highest effort to achieve the highest goal of the many, which is what we have agreed on in a democratic setting. And we all chip in with our different abilities. This is the beginning of Team Humanity. And whether you live in Japan or in India or in America or Canada or Germany or Norway or Sweden or Denmark or England or wherever you live in the world, always take into consideration the different cultural settings. If you're from Japan, your background is different, but within your culture, you have your version of what it means to the highest version of a human and what that means. And perhaps you have to go to a bit back in your history and not just seeing it from the industrious, productive society you have created now. And not just from the religious settings. And what I can't remember some of the philosophers you have had down there, but there has been great thinkers in your society as well. Perhaps you should look a little bit into some of their ideas. I know you are a warrior society, and basically build upon that. And your world, your country got a huge smack in 1945, and it was put there for deliberate reasons, and it taught the brotherhoods of Japan a lesson, and that has made them not stand as strong since as they were supposed to. Literally saying it that way, they teamed up with the Nazis, which was a bad idea. The Nazis are from Aldebaran, and these are some of the groups of the brotherhoods that decided to do so, but not all of you. You have your secret teachings as well. And to some degree, you should try and connect with these, not through studying what you find on the internet, but actually find the original books and some of the thinkers, and then process that information and come to a cultural sovereignty, not being nationalistic. This is not what I'm talking about, but this is your culture. You're not Christian. And you're not Westerner, even though your society definitely works in many ways that are similar to that. But you have a subcurrent of something entirely else that is unique for your culture. Be proud in that one, but not in a nationalistic way. I'm from Japan, so I'm better than you. This is not what I'm talking about. But these are some of your skills. These are some of your energetic powers. These are some of your consciousness grids. This goes with the racial grids and the work that needs to be done in Japan to clear out your ancestry and your collective karma and what you are up against in Japan. The same with America, the same with India, the same with Sweden, the same with Norway. Everywhere we are, each of the countries of our world is linked up to racial grids. These racial grids carry the collective memories of your race, which goes back originally to the 12 lineages that used to be part of our solar system. This is why I'm urging you to do so. See if you can find the remnants of that. Read the whole philosophy book and see if you can find the remnants of your lineage, your true lineage, not your family lineage or the one you were born into this life, because that's just, you could have been placed in there. It doesn't need to be your true lineage. But your racial lineage, your culture, the true one, not the one that has been adapted the last 300 years. Because technically, if we talk about what has ruined our world, the industrialization, difficult to say, the whole machinery, turning everything into technology and not look, and religion and technology and politics and money. We lost our social values in that one. The social values then all became about money and breeding and desire, which made us the worst kind of human there is. The ancient religions, they had different divisions or diversity versions in society, not to romanticize it at all, because it was hardship. There was a lot of poverty. There was a lot of slaves. There were the ones that were rich. There were the ones that were poor. But right now we have the ability to reconnect to some of the original racial grids. And the reason why I'm trying to push that a little bit that way is because to be an independent thinker, to be strong within a team, you have to be strong in yourself and your own identity. You have to be proud of who you are, not in a superior way, because that will not take us anywhere. But you need to be grounded in your gender. You need to be grounded in the physical form you have. And you need to be grounded in your racial grid. I'm very much aware I'm not Danish per se. Technically, I belong to the English racial grid, and some of the most of my versions I've had inside recent reality always sprung from England. But then you can ask, what's the racial grid of the English people? I don't know. These are some of the parts and some of the things that are still unknowns, which I haven't unearthed yet. That will come in 4 to 5 years' time when we reach the racial grids. Then they will begin to release their content and who we actually are as part of these original 12 lineages. And then you will say, well, are these 12 lineages divided in specific skin colors? And I would say, actually, I don't know. I don't know this yet. There would be a high probability that it would be so, considering that the 12 lineages have come from different systems, and these different systems have different types of stars, or suns, if you like, that run on different types of densities, which would, in the versions of radiation and in the version of different organic forms, would create different tones in skin and different features. So, of course. And this is not about saying, are you human or are you humanoid? Are you regressed or non-regressed, progressive or regressive, or inverted or reversed or whatever? These are part of some of the challenges we all have on a higher level of our existence. And this is also why we need to work with the idea that none of us are perfect, but we are all on the path to change what we are, who we are, and what we can become, because we have got issues that demands this of us. If you want a planet to exist on that is not entirely driven by AI technology and transhumanism and all the things that are just around the corner, which will make it a civilization that is more driven by technology than by progression and by consciousness, this is the crossroad. This is where those of us who go the other way around and say, no, I want progression. And I want progression through human capacity, not through technology. And I want to solve the climate crisis using technology in a manner that is sustainable. And this is a new way of looking at technology, because few are actually talking about that you can overuse technology and it can become imbalanced. It has to be sustainable as well. And it has to be in alignment with the environment, and it has to be in alignment with who and what we are as conscious beings. It must not take us over. There are no future for the races that chooses this. We have seen it. They end up in hive mind worlds as either insectoids or greys, and greys are partly insectoids. There are no coming back from transhumanism. There are no coming back from cyborgism. We need to stop that. We need to become progressive humans that understands how to work with our organic vessel, with our emotional structure, with our mental structure, through the different tools we have, so we will progress, but in a balanced way. We use technology when it's fitting, but we develop and progress and consciously think about what is the right solution, what is the right ratio of technology, and what can we solve with technology, and what can we solve with changing social values, the psychosocial structures of humanity. And this is where I come in. I could focus on technology, but seriously, there's enough people out there thinking about technological solutions to the climate changes. And for me, it's quite simple. Let's change the psychological structure of all humans on this planet to be a little bit more caring, to take into consideration we are a team, this is our world, we are a joint race that needs to figure this one out so we can survive. And the ones that don't understand this, well, educate them. Put them through therapy. Let them figure out why they are so afraid of the changes. Let them understand their childhood has made them into who they are, the belief systems within their family, their rigid father, their hysterical mother, or whatever has been driving them into trying to prove their worth by becoming these powerful humans that are shitting everybody else because they just want to prove themselves. They don't care about the wealth. They don't care about anything. That's for future generations. No, they need power. They need money. They are greedy, and they run unbalanced into their desires and their perversion and become predators instead. These people need to be stopped. Can't accept this. So that also goes in when we talk about changing our social values, and a lot of young people are already doing that, but we need to do it much, much more. We have enormous amount of power to select between the different companies and what they are offering of merchandise and products. If they are in all ways and forms are not taking care of our world, if they are not living up to their quota of cutting the emission of carbon dioxide, if they are not living in a way that is supporting a future for all of us, don't buy their products. Don't support them. Let us literally take them out of business by making sure they have no earnings. And I know this is kind of, how do we do this? I can do it, but there's a lot of people who don't want to do it. Again, local community, the ones who are around. Investigate enough. So if you see people who are using Adidas or who are using Nike or who are using this and that, whatever, and this is you again needing to educate yourself, explain to people what these companies do and don't, and then people can choose for themselves. We can't force them to not do or whatever, but we need to be teachers around us with a new value system. So this is some of the things I want to embark on, and this is also part of the business where I'll begin looking into, okay, how do we select between the different businesses, and where are the boundaries for when they fall through the grid and say, no, we can't support these, and when are they in working their very best within their niche and within their industry, and how they're trying and how quickly they're trying. Are they showing good effort and good mentality to do so? And again, this is where you technically need to be in your higher awareness to understand which race is running that company and that business, because of course the humans that are there are not always entirely human. Anyways, all of this is a work in progress. I've just given you glimpses of the ideas of what I wanted to work with. And now you also begin to understand why they took me out for the entire 2 years where I could have made a change. Anyways, I've done what I could in the mud pool of what I have been through since August 2018. And what led me to there, and whatever I could to change that and clear it out and get my way out of it, and all the experiences I've got from that is technically part of the whole integration classes. So it has not been for naught, but I doubt strongly that many of you will ever get there. Anyways, it is what it is. And I will do as much as I can within what I am allowed to do. Also, but seen in the bigger scheme of things, aside from the ones that are invading us because they want to do the transhuman, well, they want to turn us all into their new version of Android. So technically, let's not focus on them. But whoever's left of the other races, even though they have been laggards, they have not lived up to their responsibilities. They have been suppressors. They have been utilizing our planet for their own purposes. They have used humans to produce stuff for them, not materialistic things, but genetics and energies. They have been mining our planet to the ground. Many of the races are gone, which is why we are having an issue with the invasion forces, because they just waited for this moment where the cycles began, the shift of our planet as it is, which rendered our solar system and our planet vulnerable. And this is technically some of the things that are going on, but I'll leave it at that, because this is, most of you will not have a thing or a say in that anyways. But to make some of the greater powers that are out there that could be on our side be able to come our way. It's not about them wanting to or not, but be able to. We need to change. We need to change energetically and consciously, so that we begin emitting the correct vibration and begin creating parts of our reality, which are called jurisdictions or zones, from where human lives that go into higher awareness. and live in that higher awareness on a daily basis, having created new forms of communities, new forms of family settings, new forms of what it means to be male and what it means to be female, new forms of progression partnerships, new forms of businesses. We need to create these cocoons within a world of chaos. If we can do that, we might not be able to change the entire world, but we are enough people out there. If we take it onto ourselves to do this work and understand this is not about using human solutions. This is about using high awareness solutions and using the true potentials we have as a solar system race that goes so far back into the original human races, and begin reconnecting to the original racial grids from where our true history is hidden, and be able to integrate this and these changes that will come with that, because we are ready to adapt and we are ready to change ourselves and we're ready to work with ourselves so that when the changes come, we can embrace them and work with them and work to progress from the challenges and from the changes, because we have the goal in sight. We know what we need to work towards. And this is not for now or for this time being part of the psychosocial structures. This is not for now part of the social values. So let us change these narrow-minded stories about what a human is or isn't, and broaden our perspective, not just, oh, I believe in UFOs, but the psychological structure of a higher awareness, of understanding to work with energy, to progress your organic form and how to do that, to work with your emotional field, to progress your psychological structure and how to do that, using the different tools that are offered to you. And I do that in my whole classes as well. And working with our mental structure with the tools we have at hand, including the ones we can develop as our brain begins to fire, not just on frequency networks, but the density networks that connects to the universes around us. All of my material is centered towards that goal, because that is what will create a better world. There is nothing within this current reality that will take us there. And that is why I keep saying there's nothing here I really want to support, but I want to progress it. I want to add to it, and I want to develop it, because humanity needs to become team humanity, and we need to evolve, and we need to change our psychosocial, not suicidal, but the social structures, and what we think is the right way of being human, and how we see each other as humans, across religion, across gender, across skin color, and across cultures. We all have something to offer. And all, no matter what you are and who you are and what you believe in and what your sexual orientation is, and whether you're a scientist or a religious person or whatever you are, this doesn't matter. Because if we all chip in with our best human abilities to work together to solve the issues we have at hand, understanding what is important, and that is to preserve our world so we have a place to exist. And then also understand that progression goes in many ways, and that goes with the most fanatic ones within religions. They have lost their way as well, because the ancient religions, they progressed. And it is within all religions to have their secret teachings that are talking about this progression of the human mind, of the human consciousness, whether it is to unite with God, or it is to unite with the racial grids, or it is to unite as one team human working towards a common goal, which is our planet. At the end of the day, we are the caretakers of what we are part of. We are the caretakers of each other. And we are the caretakers of all life forms on this planet. And we are the caretakers of the children. And we are the caretakers of our nature. Could we, as Team Human, get back to these values? Because at the end of the day, this is what matters. This is the orientation we should have. These are the values we should have. Caretakers, being equal, and working together to create a better world. Thank you.